Just a couple of settings on the OBS software, which is how we do the broadcast, and let's see how well that works. I think it'll be a bit better. And so you're getting the live shot of the living area, and you can see the corner of the couch there a bit. That's a quiet portable air conditioner right there you're looking at, which I have venting out of the roof. And it's an interesting way to set up air conditioning because it's quiet. It's much more quiet than the roof AC, which I also have a roof AC over here too that I personally installed, and I could actually show how that's done. And I've got to do probably one more, but I have that in the meantime. And I like that because it's it's very quiet, and it also has a very good heating setting on it, so that works out really well. And then in the other direction, you're looking sort of at the kitchen area, not the whole area, just part of it. And then in the forward section, and you could sort of see this is also double purposed in that we have multiple things sort of into both areas. And so this is also the studio, and that's a very special area that I enjoy. And all of this is about the Happy Healer and the journey that we're on right now, and that we're running for president. It's so important because of all the issues. We have to marry power to love. We can't just have the right ideas and do nothing about it. We have to help people. And so that's what this goal is. And so that's the room we do that from. And so we'll see how well this holds out, because it wasn't holding out too well before. And it means a lot to me that you're getting everything that I'm putting out, trying to show you there. There's a live shot, and you can see the air conditioner right in the center of the screen. I installed that myself, a very professional install on some of these videos, on this one actually. And I'll go ahead and play the pre-recorded reel that I have set up for you, and you'll be able to see a bit more on the outside. You'll see Happy Force One's energy generation bay. And so there's a lot to this coach. It's a Prevost, very nice, top of the line. This is exactly what a president should be running in. And here's a live shot of the living area. That's the TV mounted on the wall, and you could see the wall has the insulated panels, and we also are always representing with the flag everywhere. And so that's really important to me. My dad served in the military, and of course I just love this country. I myself was eager to serve in the military, which is an interesting fact to know about me, that my upbringing wasn't always so simple, wasn't always so easy. And I don't talk a lot about it, but I will be talking more about it, especially that we're getting more organized in the campaign, and a lot of things are coming together. And you could see in my Happy Healer Oval Office here, we have the this right here is the country representative of our great nation. You can see there's 6 balls over here, and they have the colors red, white, and blue on them. And I just love that look because it reminds me a lot about life. And I love circles in general and balls, and I'm not sure you could even quite see that yet, but you'll see it in the other shot. I could, let's see, I'll put it over there right now for you, and you'll be able to see those balls. They're kind of in the right hand corner of that screen. So anyways, you can see we've got the God Bless the USA, and we have the ribbons. I thought they were pretty cool. And then this came out of my house from where I was before, and you've got the flag over it. And it brings a special energy with me. Remember, the energy of the Happy Healer is a very magical, amazing energy. And I intend to always keep that about me, because that's part of my faith. I can't just get rid of that. I love that. That's part of me. And all of us, we need our faith, folks. That's so important to a happy life. You know that you have value and purpose. You know that you mean something. That's really important to know that, and that you actually do mean something. So let's go ahead and play the pre-recorded portion of this show. It was, I think you'll really enjoy it. And then I'll come back on and we'll talk about some of the current events. And I want to talk to you in a speech, more of a speech format. I have some pre-written stuff I want to go over, just highlights basically, and also the speech. So we'll talk about some of the disasters that are fast approaching. We have to realize that this is a real thing. And I also spoke earlier about the business endeavors in helping people become energy independent and to build more of a free kind of life for themselves if that's what they want, and that everybody should understand how energy works. And so that'll be going on. I don't know how I'll work that in, because running for president takes a lot of energy. Speaking of energy, but you see, I do so many things. I have so many different talents, and I just put them all to work. And I could do them like the back of my hand, and I could stay focused on the task at hand, but yet we've got everything else working fine, super fine. And that's what running for president is when your Happy Healer does it. These other guys look like they're stumbling compared to your Happy Healer. So let's go ahead and get it set on up, and I'll see you in a moment.
Yeah. So if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up...
To be so self-righteous way, but to be so far away from that which is right, is to be so far away from the truth, and yet to admonish so many does nothing to unite this country. We have to be united in this time.
Right, let's do the first award. The first award.
Hello, and welcome aboard Happy Force One. I'm your Happy Healer, Keith Landy, for President of the United States of America. I am so excited about that. We have our red, white, and blue flying everywhere. We're so excited about the opportunity to run in the first place, and so eager to show the truth to fellow Americans. I just know it's going to fly over great. I can't wait. Hello and good Sunday morning. I'm your Happy Healer for President, Keith Landy. We are out here in Orlando, Florida right now, working for you, the people. We'll be heading up to Iowa. And, we're going to be looking at the schedule, and that schedule will be coming out soon. Right now, it's important for you to know that we have very serious issues going on in our country. We're going to have to get very humble about that. And I believe that with all of my heart, that we have to come together. And I'm going to talk about that right now. We're going to have to talk about becoming humble, and about our unity, and about some threats. Specifically, we have Iran and some other things, the wildfires in Australia. In the meantime, we have new discoveries that hardly make the radar. So let's talk about that stuff up next. Hi folks, it's your Happy Healer here, and I am in my Happy Force One rig. This right here is the main power station and the power box connector along with, as you can see, it keeps things going. Just keeps things going. And it's all plugged into the bus. It's the main power for the bus. Before we start the bus, what we're going to do is we're going to go outside, and we are going to the generator. 2 is the battery for the bus, and 1 and 2 together are both. And so anytime you exit the comfort and the security of your home, your house, and this is all solid, it is not going anywhere. You check your mirrors and And I have a video camera system also that gets all around the bus and even further beyond out. But we're okay, so now we can go out and make our move. Usually what I like to do, just when I'm dealing with any of this stuff, is to wear gloves. It's just a comfort thing for me, because I'm your happy healer lover. I just want to be a happy healer lover, and I just want to be in my magical world. I don't want to deal with the death and destruction that people cause. It could be love instead, and they do their destruction, they love it too. And I look them in the eyes and I say, what do you do when the destruction comes back to bite you? It always does. And so, here we are, not hurting anybody. This is boondocking, what they call it. And there she is. And it was a little cold earlier, but I think we had a couple of nights that were really cold, you know, and I thought it was colder than it was. So, but as you can see, we have an entire vessel here, and this whole thing is powered, and everything is just rocking and rolling and keeping your happy healer feeling happy. And that's what we need in this life. Let's not be so shy about it. People are they're so worried about what other people think. What's most important is yourself. Are you happy in your environment? My goodness, you're so worried about what the others think. What about what you think? I know what I think, and I'm a happy, happy camper, and that's never gone away. Okay, so I'm here to grab my tent taker, because we got to check the health of the engine. Make sure that nothing's getting hurt. And that's what I like to do. I don't even like opening the door until I'm ready, because you see there's no holes in that door. It's the way I developed the system, which is I engineered it, is that it pulls up from one side under the coach and drives the air around the engine and then out the other side. And the side that it's pulling up from, there's also a radiator there to help cool the engine. And so the bay itself can get a bit hot sometimes because it's an engine in there. It's a big diesel engine. And the engine is actually fed from the diesel in the bus. So everything is self-contained. And that's what we're trying to do. So her temperatures are great.
Welcome back. Good afternoon. Well, evening now. I'm Keith Landy, running for President of the United States of America, my fellow Americans. Let's please pray for the victims in Puerto Rico. These are trying times. We have to get work done fast, and we're done fighting with each other. In the middle of these catastrophes, I have so much to discuss, and it's all campaign and United States of America specific stuff. We'll soon be coming with scheduling stops for future rallies and more. But this is about addressing the nation and addressing people and talking about problems we're having, about grave threats and bad decisions. I want to discuss those with you. But before I do, I want to acknowledge those who understand the global threat taking place in Australia as well. Wildfires have killed 480 million animals. I can't even imagine how that's possible. That's such a staggering number. And I really hope that it's overestimated, because hardly any Americans know about this. And why is that still happening? Because Americans do what I discuss as being greedy. It's the behavior of many people in one society, all working off of a selfish ideal. And it all stems from money having more value than people do in our society, in both actions and in thoughts. When you see that collective issue, we need a collective fix, will only come from a collective common bond of love. We have for the system of love. It's time because the people want it. And it's time for all of us to see, I am the candidate to bring it. And we have it all, and all we have it in us. And it's the honest broker of truth. And that's what we're working off of. And I refer to it simply as, if I were your president, it's sufficient to say that I would be speaking directly to Australia on this. And first, what we need on the ground to make things happen. We learn a thing or two about fires, having California and so many other things, and we have to help others with that knowledge. We have to share and rely upon each other. And this world is worth it. And instead of getting further into this civil war, we could do better things in this world. So I say, from one American to another, no enemy of America wishes to fight with each other until the day that we're fighting with ourselves. Never forget that fact. It's time to get wise for the children of our future. While President Trump is sending troops to our Middle East, a common place for our past to be there, I say, how's Trump any different? I'd be using those resources to help squash the wildfires. And so I say, these mistakes are made. And if we don't save the ship before we sink it, because we're sinker faster than we can expel the hate and division that's drowning us. It's like a slow motion death, a never-ending disunity. And that's a national threat, my fellow Americans, and we'll talk about that today. So welcome. I am committed to you, my fellow Americans, and as such I have been working feverishly to get Happy One Force prepped for the coming year, where we'll mount a year to bring about the change, to bring ordinary Americans who are smart enough to know that we need this forward progress and a technologically advanced future that we're forsaking. And most of us realize that kind of change is the only way for the continuity of life to persist, and that some may disagree on that. But when you talk to the American people, the writing is on the wall. And that is why we talk about the truth of media and so many other truths that show us the truth over time and time again. And we have to get to a life worth living for humanity so that we can put a stop to the massive suicides that we're having all over the place, in the form of shootings, in the form of people going nuts and willing to kill themselves in the name of killing others. And no one in particularly special are able to carry out the worst mass shooting on American soil. It was only a couple of miles away from my house, and I'll never forget that. It was the Pulse nightclub shooting. We have a seriously triggered populace, and there's a push to make things worse, and it's making us less safe at home, less safe abroad. And the hate that comes from this disunity makes people whom I have witnessed almost become a bit suicidal in their thinking. They're almost willing to take a crash to take down others. They're so hateful. Folks, we are one America. We better snap out of it and start taking care of Americans and get unified and show self-determination and freedom can meet these challenges too, with good old-fashioned inspiration. I want to be your inspirer-in-chief, not just your commander-in-chief. That's so important to know that, because the universe is so far as it goes. We're reporting progress, even on technology. This battery, lithium, it charges from the oxygen in the air. It's from Gainesville, Florida, at the University of Florida. We need to be looking at our future and solving issues through technology and ushering in a new technological age. That is what the American people expect of our leaders in this time. And as your next president, your happy healer, Keith Landy, is exactly what I shall do. The way things are headed now, it doesn't matter which side you're on. All sides are taking us down a road of insanity, where we have no unity and endless war with self. That is not acceptable, and in American families expect us to address this matter, and by doing so, make our families safer. The folks making all the things that are likely to make our worst fears and catastrophic events come true seems to almost be if those causing so much are entranced and stuck in a past time. They can't see the way forward, given all of the mismanagement. And in a way, they're right, because there's really no way in the system of greed and in all that comes out of it. Only in a unified nation that knows human value and love, coupled with this system of love, can solve that. Unity and freedom itself, it's self-determination, which is at stake. Because of that very self-determination, it will save our lives. I am confident we can achieve a society equal to the task of our times, just like previous Americans were able to do when they were the first to achieve the atomic bomb. We mustn't forget the nuclear bombs were just a theory. No one had made one. But the major powers of the 1930s world all were racing to become the first nation wielding the power of nuclear weapons. Through Los Alamos, Oppenheimer and 50,000 American scientists descended upon Los Alamos and able to get that bomb built in short order. They only got started after World War II, and it was already waged, and was still able to plan and organize an action plan that involved so many people working on one task. They dedicated several million and several billion and trillion dollars really for that time. And failure to get this technology first would have meant the end of life as we know it. And the current times are the same way concerning the technological singularity. It's so important, and it's a major consideration for a nation that wishes to remain free in their own self-determination. And this is the action you take up in order to ensure that. The richest nation in the world must get unified and must get busy creating the first super consumers of our great world. It's the only thing we should be doing. What was it that caused us to go so far off our rightful journey? Here we stand as the world's richest nation. Think of the massive wealth our country has, collectively and otherwise. We have the command power of printing money and then have it be traded around the world. It's the gold standard. Yet, we stand to lose our position and stature in this world, which will result in major conflict, and if I am right, the end of the American way of life for many reasons. We can't continue on this dreadful path and still address these issues. We must change and improve. We must be allowed to do that. For that is what people want with all of their hearts. And if we are to show ourselves true, to be the land of the free, and that we allow people to share the self-determination, to be so determined to make a future reflect the view of each person that they are entitled to a happy, healthy life in America, and most important for all and every person, to have the dignity of a life worth living. And that is what we're fighting for in this campaign. And that's what your happy healer for president, Keith Landy, is running. And the people are very smart in reality. They get it. And that's why I'm confident this run will be successful ultimately. They can't compete with one simple American who knows the problem to perceive it so as to fix it. And I know I am that man, as one supporter said from our earlier endorsers, SAG-AFTRA, and I appreciate that of the Screen Actors Guild, sent out a tweet suggesting folks get a look at our candidacy and shared it on their site, and I appreciated that vote of confidence. And that's what we need, is for people to open their eyes to see There's been so much that has happened in this campaign before all of this year has ever even started, and it's all on the site. And we confront the issues that ordinary Americans face. And indeed, I feel that Americans know that when they are lied to. And I have faith in our people. And it's that honest broker of truth in all of us that I am so keen to speak to. Because that's how we have built our support base. By showing ourselves capable of a true unity that is hope of serving our nation. By showing ourselves capable of the true unity. This is it. Think about that. I am proud to say that while all other candidates, no matter which other national candidate you support, that don't allow a way forward with peace, with self, we are at war with each other, which is our greatest national security threat. Perhaps it's our media that has changed in human progress the ability to move forward in every century before us, and before modern media has even became about, and that has been our story, one of consistent progress, and that is the only way we persisted. Folks, look at the facts. If we didn't progress and grow and become better in massive ways in order not to become complacent at war with self, then we did well. Whenever we put our differences aside and worked to make a future that was worthy of our existence, we chose freedom and love. It's only when we use greed and hate that we get the result that we have now, and I define greed well in this campaign. It's far from just money matters. People show greed when they don't think they're racist, for example. They don't care for another soul, and when they make their own truths, and that they insist that others recognize that fake truth. It's a complex and filled with so many clues. The truth is there to see, though. And our only sense of knowing all this is that we must take all the tools that we have, it's a gift from God as I call it, and get busy using it to progress. It's our sciences, and we need to get even better at it. We must grow. We must progress. And yes, media is an amazing tool for human communication. I think it shows quite well our ability to do so much more. And even now we're using media to full effect and doing it aboard Happy Force One. And it shows we're addressing the nation as such. Your president, HappyHealer, happens to have his own presidential ground traveling HappyHealer Force One, which is equipped with all kinds of capabilities. God is certainly making possible all of what we have done and the progress that we've made and the whole process. Yet it's just as simple seeing the truth and reacting in logic in life, putting humanity first, and to be pragmatic about the problems and solutions. And we have so many capabilities, and I'll be sharing so many experiences from Happy Force One. I know it's going to be great. It's officially 2020, and this presidential race is on, and I'm your HappyHealer for president because of recent events. I felt it was a sense of urgency to come out concerning recent events in Iran. I'm going to speak to several things this morning. As we know, it's a delicate time in foreign policy as Iran shot 15 ballistic missiles. 2 were shot down. The rest were landed on Iraqi bases where Iraqi soldiers and our soldiers were stationed. There were no deaths. I think that Iran had to attack given they had domestic views and given the views of their people and the response of some of our own. I think we should be very careful in situations where we lack information. We were lucky no Americans were hurt or Iraqis that occurred earlier this morning. I have always said from the beginning of this campaign and well before, as a private citizen, our disunity is making us extremely unsafe and making it impossible to work for a unified progress, which so happens to be the only way possible to address the many crises we face. I intend to get into some of that today. Today is January 8th, and God bless all of us. So I just want to say I'm your HappyHealer Love Nuts from within the belly of the beast, Happy Force One. I am Keith Landy, your people's candidate for President of the United States. Welcome. Our campaign has entered a new phase. Starting on January 1st of 2020, the year of our next election and the kickoff to our tour of Your Happy Healer for President, which is now, I hope we can all come together, and I really believe we can. If I didn't think it was possible that we all come together as one nation, then as the people's candidate and the humble, straightforward, honest, loving American, Your Happy Healer for President, I wouldn't be running for president. And I believe and know that we can win, so that we must unite, and that we have great reason to unite. Mainly for the fact that we all know we must meet the various challenges that threaten the continuity of life on earth. Love can solve all of them, while greed has no hope of solving them. And in fact, created them. Think about that. That reminds me of a story. When I was a boy, which I am a boy at heart now because I love and I'm innocent like a child because of that love, and I don't hate. But aside from that, hate is a cousin of greed and very pointless. To the point, however, I was an actual child, and our family had a little farmland, and my parents planted various fruits and vegetables and flowers and seeds. And we had an old burnt-out mobile home trailer and a half-built house that would prove to be an ill-fated venture in our family. By, of course, of that, I mean we had our little farm taken from us for several reasons. All typical in greed, really, you know. We called this land the 10 acres. It was my father's dream to have this farm. Now, my mother and us kids, we preferred civilization over this desolate area. We only had a handful of neighbors, and we lived off a county line road. On this farm, we also had some chickens. This story is about the consistent disappearance of those chickens, just like we see with the value in humanity today. In many ways, there's a connection. Those chickens were needed for food for the Landy family. And there were weeks where we hardly ate, and so we needed every last bit of food we can get our hands on. The chickens themselves, a donation to our family. So they were our only ones. If we intended to have eggs, it was through them damn chickens, or we won't have eggs. So every last one of those, us cared about those chickens. It was hilarious. They were part of our family as much as our dog Abraham was. He's a great dog. We built a nice pen for those chickens so that they were secure, yet we thought. And, well, one of them came up missing anyway. Just like it got out of the pen or something. But no damage to the pen. It was amazing, just some rough feathers, and we wondered, where did this chicken go? Fine, so one less chicken meant one less egg to go around. There were eight of us in the family, so we really needed every last one of those eggs. So we really needed every last chicken. But we really couldn't even figure out how the chicken got out. So there were some ruffled feathers and not much evidence besides that. So we make sure the cage is secure. Just, well, no chicken is going to get out of this cage unless it can dig its way out. We were good to go. We were just good. It was just one missing chicken. We'll make do. And so we carried on. Another night goes on. This time another chicken comes up missing. And a further one was found dead in the pen. Now we're confronted with some evidence. We have a quite alarming situation. Now we're down to 9 chickens, and clearly we have a murder on our hands. A predator interested in taking the food right out of our mouths. Now these pets that we love that actually provided that food, and now 3 of them are missing and 1 is dead in the pen. At least 3 times as many ruffled feathers seem to be everywhere. But now the obvious place, the chicken couldn't even get out. Not as you would imagine. And we have Abraham. He was the dog. He was the outside dog, and he would be able to ward off any predator. We were really in a precarious situation. It was obvious we had a predator on our hands and was coming after our chickens. And it was so smart and manipulative, perhaps, and it was able to even get past our dog Abraham, which was no fool. That dog was almost always so smart as the kids. And it was part of our family and loved a nice challenge. And we know that no predator would pull over on him that easy. So, we were shocked. We hunkered down, but we were mad about this outcome. Because now we only had 9 chickens producing eggs. So, we learned long and hard about the problem, and it seemed clear enough our collective family was being attacked by a predator when the need was higher than ever to increase our security apparatus. So it just wasn't cutting it anymore. So now that we decided we would do what anyone who had a smart, resourceful dog would do. We shall tie Abraham, so this lazy dog, he's a bit lazy and selfish. He loved to chase our school bus and bite the tires. As it was driving, the bus driver, Miss Drake, would get scared. No predator would have an easy time with Abraham. We trusted our outside hound. He was clearly sleeping on the job, evidently. So we had our 4-legged, furry friend to keep our breakfast safe so we can have breakfast for months to come. At least 9 eggs anyway, right? All right. That night we secured Abraham nice with a liberal amount of room so he could fend for himself while still on the leash. He'll bark, and we'll be there to see him and help out in time. So now the next morning comes and another chicken is gone. And Abraham was on his nice long leash, sleeping under the barn near the chicken pen. And what have we here? This lazy dog was fast asleep like the rest of us on his long chain. We all fixed that then. We made his chain just long enough to go make a round of the pen once to ward off any would-be predator. We were not going to end up having to start sharing eggs for our 8-person family. That wasn't going to happen. So we only had 8 chickens left. So that night we felt better about going to bed, having Abraham not so far away. We slept well, and we came out the next day to a bloody murder fest. Every last chicken was dead, and Abraham was covered in feathers and had all over his mouth blood, and he was sitting directly in the pen. True story. The moral of this story is to watch out who you trust. It's not always what you think. Even when you know a great deal of truth or facts, it's not always the whole truth. And often, the whole truth can be entirely different than what you're thinking. And that is so similar to me the way greed is. It's really so cunning. It's not very obvious in the ways that it takes from us. And we know that it does take. We just never realize that it's taking to the extent that it does. And because that it also is a manipulative force and has us believe the system of God's love not to be possible, so that it can overcome the awesome powers of God's love through manipulative ways. And continues to do this until we are all no longer, and there is no reason left to be anything at all, including cunning. Remarkably, the story is a bit like our story with Abraham, who was stuck in a pen with all the dead chickens on the 3rd morning. So obviously the killer that takes from the life that gives is an analogy that you can relate with. Life is also about perception in this life. And the more experiences and phases that you've gone through, then the more perception that you have against the rest of the population. It's fascinating how many of us have experienced the same thing, but at different times. Fear is always in control. But the only truth that has lasting power in the world, and this truth is that you're a remarkable creation and that you're capable of overcoming every adversity thrown at you, and that we can unite in the self-determination only possible in a free, unified people, exercising self-determination, realizing that we need to be self-determined to get anything done at all. And if we are ever determined for anything and embrace the practice of love, the energy of love, and most notably this system of love, which is explained as the abundance of love, Love is always abundant and always stronger with numbers and with unity. It has a compounding force. It's the force that makes 10 plus and then becomes 10 by 10. Compounding energies is only possible in a force that is able to keep us together. Greed is only alive to keep us apart, and it's so cunning on how it gets into our minds and tricks us fast ourselves to take best what is away from us. And that is our great challenge now. Now is a time for innovators. We're stagnant in our development, in our potential, and we're reckless for the human race. We may be the reason that we become extinct if we insist upon our greedal civil war and feel the right to choose our own truth. Even in the right of truth you can't deny, and I don't think you want to debate against. But you're welcome to try. And should yet you have better ideas incumbent upon you to also be a part of the solution, then come join us. We need great people coming together for great solutions for our largest problems. And we need to get to that work now, or perhaps lose for all time. Mistakes made in times of great knowledge, but also with great recklessness, are also often mistakes that provide no redemption. So while greed represents the way to no redemption, love is all about redemption. Think about that. That is why in this campaign we take the continuity of life seriously. That's why we're not allowing the news talking heads to decide for us what to say. We speak to the actual issues that have hope of improving living conditions, to empower people, to empower Americans, and that if you can't get around to a life worth living in love, then surely greed will leave us all worse for the wear. That's why it's so important for God's love to begin compounding now. We do not have the majority to win because of the compounding nature of love, however. We only need to, however, merely push the snowball effect to get massive results fast. People have been waiting for this for as long as I have. I have pulled from the very truth on my heart to find this common ground. This honest assessment of truth from the honest broker who loves, who knows grace, and who knows humility, and who knows pain and despair, and yet still knows success and hard work. People from all walks of life, and they all do whatever they do out of love. It's our reason for living already. We were very poor, and we learned how to trade in the currency of love, my family. It was large, and we realized that family was important. And my mom raised us above all to love each other. I always wondered, where did that selfless and unconditional love come from? I can say just to know that it existed makes me realize just how young I was when I knew God. And that's the purest love available that comes from the purest care. Love is to the power of care. And for me, that was a great lesson, and one that resonates now also, as I think about the relationship between the deceptive nature of greed, our easily fooled minds, primed to be living with a relationship and reality that we thought we can depend upon. But it was in our very dependence that made us weak, because actually we were always the greater force. And it took for our rather innocent nature to make any of this possible, to just weed out any human value we possess, and that would make us more predictable and more controllable. Love is not nearly as predictable as greed. Greed is always corrupt and therefore after power and thirsty for more and never content. Love wouldn't leave you so empty. That's how you know that difference. Sometimes the only thing missing is the truth. And that, my folks, we have the truth here today. And our self-determination, our freedoms, that's our strength. And yet it's waning in the world of greed, and soon it'll be gone forever. And with that, our one-way, decent hell greed, indecent hell greed, really, to death. We're such a small amount of the world population, 5%. And what do we do with all this strength and riches and wealth beyond measure? And we couldn't even muster up the courage to do love, even with self-determination stacked on our side, with all this wealth and ability. And let's say we still stumbled, then what hope would other nations and other people have? So just really think of what is at stake here. And then you know why I'm running. It's so simple. I would not be wasting my time if I didn't believe in you. To the contrary, my brothers and sisters, I have the utmost faith in human possibility and to the power of love and our clarity to see it all through. And I hope that our future and for the future of our children, that we all see that our needs of our time and to realize those needs, the failure of greed dumped onto the system of the people, shows it's disorganized and a rust and just causes pain everywhere it goes. And we've talked about that in this campaign. And we've got so much more to cover. Real stories with real people. And that'll be coming up too. Our campaign is taking off. And if this is your first time hearing your Happy Healer for President, Keith Landy, then take note. Because we are now in a serious push for the White House to the power of love. As some of my less ardent supporters know, we have a campaign bus of Happy Force One, and I am on it. She is a beast, and she'll ferry us around, and she'll be ferrying around your next president, your Happy Healer for President. And all I ever seek to do is empower you, and to believe in you, and to inspire a new nation to come out of the ashes of greed. Because greed is death. We see it in its failures. Greed is a bad deal for humanity. And it's hardly the best we've got. And we'll make that comparison every day. We all know the elephant in the room is always greed. Every time. It's what makes men, even the most civilized, appear to be animals. We tolerate it, but we have no good reason to. Itself very well may be the devil if there is one, and I'm sure if it is, it's greed. And I'm just as sure that God is love and truth. And so yes, logic is what makes sense to the honest broker of truth inside. Greed is the cause of all human suffering. Why do we do it? And that is a fact I have studied such over a long period of time. I believe strongly in the human spirit. And I know that if we don't get serious and focused on solutions to address the nature of the fundamental threat greed poses to society, then instead we all find out that we're in a more dire set of circumstances later on. How long can we put up with this sloppy corruption and one size fits all with fits no one solutions within greed? It's out to destroy, and it's doing quite well. And it's for us all to get serious about the solutions to greed. In this campaign, I will argue no matter where you stand in democracy and where you stand in politics or capitalism, economics, the fact remains you're a human being and a valued member of our human family, and you matter. In this campaign, I will argue no matter that. You value more than money does. You're the thing that creates all other value in commodities and industries alike. Without you, all other things lack value. Yet, as if the dollar itself had more value in it than the human itself, humanity is traded like commodities on an open stock market. We see this as true, and we watch greed and the fruits of its labor in the system of greed. And only one needs to understand how greed not only says that it's okay, and that folks who exercise extreme greed, even at the cost of human life, they're permitted to go to the top of society. There is no limit to the extent at which greed will go to destroy the human soul. This has never been more clear than it is now. It's ever more clear, and I intend to share that story with my constituents, my fellow Americans. I am your son, and I am wishing to make you proud, and to do my very best, and to impress about the system of love, because that is perhaps you have never heard about it before. and neither have I, and I know it exists, and I know that we are now in a system of greed, and that should we make a change, and it's upon us to see the value in our lives and realize that value, and to our experiences and unlocking human potential along all spans of humanity. Love is a force that should never be second place. Love shows up first, gets up earliest, stays latest, never gives up, never gives in, never gives out, always has hope, never loses vision. Love is indeed the only force in the known universe to support and surpass all matter, to remember itself and to continue to work upon a future living based on the cause of happiness. Think about that. Greed only promises to serve to the cause of sustenance, and it fails miserably. And in reality, the very world we live in, you even not ask if corruption exists, because you already know it does exist based on the virtues and integrity it lacks by the greed it accepts. The prideful lust is only concerned about profit. The prideful lust that is only concerned about profit is causing all of our hell. And yet, in greed, they even failed to obtain the happiness they were after in this system of greed. So it shows that not only the greedy force leaves us out, but it leaves everyone out. It's just a lie. So it's like we all do either hell together or we all do love. It's just that simple. The whole truth, that is. Nor are the solutions really, they're not all that simple, and that greed is nefarious, and that greed is interested only in self-preservation and at the expense of life and happiness for all. And so the worst thing that kills us all is greed. And it kills us all, and it even kills those who sold us out as well. So on top of all of this, it's just that cunning, lying force we all need not have in our lives at all. Nobody decided this hell that runs our lives, but we can decide to do better, and that is our only way at this point, to do better. Think about that. I see all around us life play out. I see myself in those facts as they play out. Those facts of life are the truths around us. These truths have an ambient nature about them. They can be spoken to. Ordinary people who life is played out upon them are very familiar with the ambient temperature of life. It has one. That makes it possible to think and speak to things that aren't always understood by an individual, understand it on their own. It's often so complicated. They could just make a picture and just know in their gut what is right, and that's the state that I find in so many people. I've often wondered that we believe much the same things, because the truth and our impulses and desires and experiences dictate that. Think about that. But yet the mission of conveying on how to get that which we want and we desire, it's always in dispute. It's always in dispute. And that's where greed's opportunity is. That greed's factions that are as difficult as the greed they serve. Yet the passion behind those that they worked with, that they serve to utter insanity. Think about it. You know, I seek to speak to the honest broker of truth in all of us. The one that says if we don't fix up our nature, then we will never make it where we ought to be. We are the richest country in the world, pissing our worth away and showing self-determination and freedom to be incompetent and not keeping us safe in a challenging world with many threats. But yet, self-determination alone, if we practice it as well as we should as a people, if we become determined at all, and that's what we need to do against the system of greed, as we affectionately call it, I believe it to be the obvious sin that we can never succeed beyond where we were even 20 years ago because of its flaws without descending into chaos and ruins. We have to get better. If we don't determine a way forward, then we don't give people a life worth living at a time in history that we know all in our guts. Things should be easier. Easier now, not harder. In the 50s, it only took one parent to work. But in a system of greed, It's all just shortened by calling it greed hell. We know what that greed hell is. It's the system we live in. It takes the longer path to do anything. It doesn't use true cooperation. It argues and fights about everything. And that is something I will continue to unravel in my candidacy, helping us all choose a president who already unraveled the problem as the people already knew it to be, and is therefore the most prepared to be president in order to see to it our self-determination has a shot to bring about the radical change in peace, happiness, and love and prosperity people know and want and is overdue. And the way to get there is by cooperation, love, unity, hard work, determination, dedication, integrity, honesty, and a full understanding of what we are dealing with. A rather frank understanding. I even write blogs on this very issue. Our campaign is growing, and I've always said it will grow with a small starting, and understand as this is for ordinary Americans to develop cues and clues for the available perceptions which I talk about often, and helps me understand the very large swath of people. This is particularly very helpful in using natural talents I have in peer mediation, which we need right now. It's almost like God prepared me for helping in ways we now know are so vital to the needs we all share. So I would be unfaithful not to run. I would be a coward of the worst kind with no integrity, one who knows that nobody else is stepping up, that death is imminent for all, and still does nothing. That is why in this campaign it's time to listen up and get serious. And it's why there is a Happy Healer campaign at all. And that is why I've always said in my run is a matter of truth, my integrity. I could not run knowing what I know, given the facts that we have. And that's something I'm willing to mull over with you and to speak with you about and to have those conversations. It's important to debate this. I welcome the other candidates to debate me on this issue. All of you versus me. In fact, the issues that are in love always win. And you could use all of that. And it still won't be enough to overcome the truth written on our hearts. We know what we must do is a matter of a bold mission. And we intend to do it. We're going to be speaking on so many New Age issues concerning our immediate future. I'll be making the case for a 2020 Happy Healer presidency and why this country needs a Happy Healer. And I am your Happy Healer for president, and I can personally attest to the fact that there is nothing more that I know that I should be doing other than running for president at this point in my life. Sending the fruits of knowledge that which sets us free from the bondage of greed in a way that kept us from winning massively the whole time. As the richest country in the world and the only humanity in this universe, so we are aware that it's really befallen upon us to take responsibility as the richest nation and take humanity into 21st century. Nature is showing out all around us the need for change, and we do nothing. Lest the greed not only keep us paralyzed in a slavery that makes hope impossible, one that is nothing, that hope is not hope at all, and that which is only hope and no results is just propaganda. Greed is most certainly a human trait, and give its clear show of strength, there's only one more powerful, yet mightily powerful, strength against the cancerous greed, and that seeks to make us matter less and less and less until we lose all determination at all. And that is God's love. Oh yeah, love. Love is within us and can be wielded by us as a force. It unites, it builds, it creates. In fact, it makes everything. And it's the reason for everything. We do everything for love. We find our passions in love. We get a life worth living only through love. And so why is it losing to greed when it's so much more powerful than the impotent nature of greed, which creates nothing and takes everything and demands? It lies when it can't demand and steals and corrupts plots and then goes to war all to one end. Death on a massive scale until there is nothing left. and the complete destruction of humankind. And therefore, if the evidence were to mean anything, if greed's only goal is death by the evidence we know to be true written on our hearts, yet we accept that greed, how is that we do that and still show our faces in public? Because we make excuses for it. That's why. Greed loves to see us lose ourselves, and so therefore it is a nefarious force in nature. Greed is an undeniable truth like racism and bigotry, so to get people to demand its very end, they're working for an impossible goal then in greed. And so therefore it can only cause war. It has no hope of dealing with racism or bigotry because it's not using love. And if you don't use love, then you're already beat because they accept greed. And in greed, the very nature of humankind is to accept that hell, to accept that death, to accept their own truce, the civil war, the hate, which is greedy. Their number one go-to, and they hate that. Folks, self-determination is freedom. And freedom is a derivative of love, first given to you by your Creator, and then against all odds written in our Constitution in this country, literally and figuratively placed at our feet, at this land we call America, to do something about it. We have the riches, and to be the only ones on this earth I believe to be true, and it's here where I stand, and all that I see is death and misery in every place leading out. Greed hell gets very bad remarks as far as in terms of its results. For the richest country in the world to put out such death and misery shows us just how off base we are. I encourage you to ask questions, and I have already answered so many of them with you. Perhaps your answers are even better than mine sometimes. It's only the truth that matters most, not pride, and that's the kind of president I'll be. One that can show it to be possible. One that we must use our freedom to choose the world of love. In the midst of greed shall destroy that love, and we gotta save that love in a world destined for greed. These people have no faith in humanity, no hope, just in the endless pursuit of wealth above all other human matter, until humans don't matter at all. Freedom is a cousin of love, and that's why I'm often talking about love's cousins, so that we can explain this in which ways we can all relate. That we find common ground in our actual problems, not the one that greed hell created and then tells us how to solve them and then sets themselves up pretty in the process. That's that corruption, those cousins of greed. So we explain it in a way that people can receive so that we do not deceive. And never forget that. My life events, no matter how far off they veered from the typical path one would accept, they added up to the right reasons and love to run. And I'm running in this tumultuous time because of the extreme nature of events happening all around us. Greed is so nefarious in these various plots and versions of truth that people have to sift through to just find balance in life. That's what greed is. Instinctively, we desire to understand the world around us through sciences and answers that work for a happy, prosperous life with advancement. Instinctively, the only thing that brings together people is advancement, and love is what brings passion that makes that possible. So true. When you see the nefarious force that greed is and how it corrupts people and how it betrays people, it puts people in harm's way. It scares people into things. But to explain it is another thing. And yet these folks, they're smart. They understand the truth no matter its complicated nature. And for them, it's almost poetic to hear another speak with the same truth for which they have years of developed senses, to which they can relate things when spoken, immediately bring back various memories of these senses the natural world sends us. We have our culture and humanity itself with our emotions, and the forces that live with us are so real and alive. And that speaks to a larger truth about life itself and about our time in this journey and our purpose. It's amazing. Take it from a practitioner of life. As I, your happy healer, for President of the United States, Keith Landy is. And at our best, we speak to these values. We realize people are worth the time and effort. Even though you can't always find time to make the effort and greed, hell, is it always stacked against the individual and freedom? Think of that as you consider your candidate, and know that you know that I, your happy healer, has been working as hard out, and that we all deserve better. And then I ask, vote for a better future, and we can have that better future. That's what we have to do. I really know together we can do these things. I believe in America. I believe in every citizen in America. And I want you to come here and to get involved on the campaign. And I want you to help us by going and signing up and getting your friends involved as we visit your cities. You'll be seeing right on the stage on the 3rd floor. We have a basement. This is door 2. The 1st floor is down there. This is the 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor is where the stadium is. So it's the stadium we make, and we bring the power. We have the systems. We are smart. We're able to get it done, and that's part of how we get it done. We teach. We show the right way, and always we love, because love never fails, and love is always the force that gives, and I'm always happy giving it. So as your happy healer for President of the United States, on this 8th day of January 2020, we are geared up for this fight in the campaign of love moving forward. We'll see you next time.